welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Tree for Two, and with me today is Chester himself, my good friend Devin Baxter. Say hi.
You and me as pals, ain't we, Spike? Ain't we, Spike? You and me as pals, ain't we?
I'm Chester like, shut up.
Nah. You wouldn't like that. How about beating up a cat? Can we beat up a cat?
How about we do a review? So, a few bits of info to get underway. So, as mentioned, this is Tree for Two, released on the 18th of October 1952. It's the 662nd in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freleng. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3 DVD or Blu-ray set, and I have links below to that set. Now, I can't show you the full cartoon here due to copyright on YouTube. It'll just get taken down. That's why you can't see this short anywhere on YouTube, okay? But what happens here, I guess it's a hippity hopper short in a different way, right?
You know, I never thought of that. But it really speaks to the directorial sensibilities of McKimson and Freleng, because Friz makes it into a real classic comedy situation of different contrasts. You have the big tough bulldog and the sycophantic little lackey with Spike, voiced by Stan Freberg, in a wonderful performance. Freleng sets this up very nicely, where you have the newspaper clippings of the Black Panther lurking about in the shadows, and then it all coalesces into how it affects the main plot of the cartoon. Spike and Chester are searching for something to do. Spike doesn't want to chase cars. He's above that. He doesn't want to catch a ball. He's way above that. He's a tough guy. But Chester suggests, hey, how about we beat up a cat?
Cat? You know where is it a cat?
And that plays more to Spike's braggadocio, you know? You know where is it a cat? Poor Sylvester. He's not even chasing Tweety in this picture. He's just having the time of his life singing Charleston, not a care in the world, behind the fence. But when he turns that corner, he goes right into hell when he encounters Spike and Chester in that nice staggered exposure, shock and terror there, turning around the corner again. I just love that bit of staging that Freleng did. And if I could make a general opinion, and I've talked about this with a few people, I kind of equate Freleng and Jones in their comedy sensibilities to Max Sennett and Hal Roach, the live-action comedy producers. I feel Freleng is more of a Max Sennett approach. He's more broad and knockabout and a bit rough, but Freleng could be more subtle than Max Sennett if he wanted to. While Chuck Jones kind of has the essence of a Hal Roach comedy, there's more of an elegance to it, and there's more of nuance to it. But that's not to say Sennett shorts didn't also have elegance and nuance. Sometimes certain series had elegance and nuance, and some Roach series had more knockabout comedy, depending on the era and the director and the series. I'm thinking more of a Laurel and Hardy approach in terms of Hal Roach and Chuck Jones. And the Billy Bevan comedies with Freleng and the knockabout sensibilities. If you watch those kind of shorts back to back, you'll see what I mean.
I also wanted to point out that both this short and the earlier Hippity Hoppers were written by the same guy, Warren Foster, and he tends
Exactly.
and he's done a lot of the so-called mistaken identity type shorts throughout his career. It seems to be something that he enjoys doing, and he's quite good at too, I must say, because this is one of the good ones. I just wanted to point out a few bits of trivia. This is the first of two appearances of Spike and Chester, and the second appearance is in 1954 with Dr. Jekyll's Hyde, where they've got completely different voices. Hey, Governor?
Yeah, they're Cockney. And not only that, if you watch Tree for Two and Dr. Jekyll's Hyde side by side, no rhyme intended, they reuse a lot of the animation from Tree for Two, but with different lines of dialogue for Chester and Alfie. They named him Alfie in Dr. Jekyll's Hyde. And sometimes it comes off very sloppy with the way they reuse the animation with the substitute dialogue, but only in the context of watching these films with a very keen eye. But then you also have to account for the fact that these were only meant to be seen in theaters, and you didn't see these constantly in a row. So there's that context as well. Like, if you hadn't seen Tree for Two before and only seen Dr. Jekyll's Hyde, it doesn't really matter.
I guess they just want to reuse the character designs, and that's pretty much it. It is what it is. The title, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves of Friz Freleng, and for those who are not new to the channel, definitely know that's one of my pet peeves. But the title itself, Tree for Two, which seemingly has nothing to do with the short itself. It's a play on the song Tea for Two, which, again, I don't get why they picked that title. It's just, okay, all right, whatever. In the comments, let me know if you can think of a better title for this short.
They probably had working titles before the approved title. I remember seeing, this is later, Broomstick Bunny had at least, I think, 7 alternate titles before they landed on the one they chose. And most of them were punny. I don't know what the working title for this was, but it's an easy pun. I do want to say that according to Keith Scott's research, the dialogue track session with Mel Blanc and Stan Freberg, they would have done their dialogue track separately on October 28th, 1950. And then it was released October 18th, 1952. But I found that it played earlier in a Rock Island, Illinois theater on October 11th.
Oh, wow. Sometimes that happens, right? You'd have a few places that might have seen it a bit earlier. Does it happen often?
Theater exchanges could take shorts whenever they wanted, I believe. The release booking dates that are in all of the animation history books and filmographies, you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. What I've been doing lately is I've been researching which Warner Brothers cartoons and which movies they played next to them. And I found that in the 1930s, especially with Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, they play at the Warner Brothers Hollywood and downtown theaters with Warner Brothers Features in Los Angeles. Some are earlier than what's listed in those filmographies, and some are a little later.
So, but at least we get a general idea. Anyway, I go by some of the lists I find, which look pretty accurate, but yeah, sometimes it might be shown earlier, a little bit later. Yeah, who knows? It's not like these days where they could just transmit massive digital files around the world and that kind of stuff, you know? It has to be physically delivered to people, films and such. But I gotta say, with this short, once I got past that title and I'm like, oh, it's this one, okay, because that's what actually did happen. I first saw this short via a segment in Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island.
Oh, yes.
You know, which is one of those films where I guess the main premise would be probably lost on a lot of people from where it actually came from, which was Fantasy Island, which was a huge show at the time. But I like the idea of it, where in Fantastic Island you had Chester wishing to be strong, and I forgot the name of the person who does that voice.
Les Tremayne.
Les Tremayne, that's it. Yep, that's him. Watching the short, I liked how they used it in the context of the movie, where Chester makes his wish, the short plays, and then Chester gets his wish, and it's pretty much the same ending of this short, just done by new animation and new vocals and such, because they brought back Mel Blanc and Stan Freberg. But watching it in its original short, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, but I love this one.
I do too. I first saw it on Nickelodeon as a kid. I remembered the sycophantic nature of Chester jumping up and down, suggesting certain doggy activities to Spike, and getting a slap. Nah. It's like an older brother, little brother relationship I kind of resonated with. I did that a couple times as a kid. So that's all I remembered. Then when I started watching Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network, paying more attention to the titles of certain cartoons. And I watched Fantastic Island like you did, and the same kind of thing. I don't remember if I watched the original short on Cartoon Network later or Fantastic Island later. Either way, it was kind of one of those nice moments for me. There's also something I want to point out with the newspaper inserts. The lorem ipsum, that's the placeholder text that's in the newspapers. Thanks to Charles Brubaker for introducing me to that term. So what happens in these 50s Warner shorts is that the placeholder text are just exacto cutouts of Warner's Club news blurbs. If you look at the font very closely, there's one cartoon, I think, cut out the blurb of Dave DePatie on there. Note the date too. I mentioned that the dialogue track was recorded in October 1950, and the newspaper headline says February 2nd, 1951. That might have been the first background finished. It's an easy background to do, so it makes sense.
That was the first thing I noticed regarding the paper, the actual date, and that should give an indication to people just how long some of these actually take to make. And it's my understanding, though, that when the studio was shut down in 1953, they actually had a massive backlog.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah.
This would lend evidence to that as well, because if you have such a big gap between this February 1951 date and the release date that's commonly accepted, 18th of October 1952, give or take, That's a big gap. And that explains why in 1953 and 1954, if you didn't know the history of the Warner Brothers, you wouldn't have known that there was a shutdown because they had so much, it just sort of blended in when they restarted again.
The shutdown was in the film trades, but I believe the public would have known that. Because of the excess of knowledge we have at the tip of our fingers, we know that. But in the context of production, Keith could tell you this too, that by the post-war period, it was customary for a short cartoon to take somewhere between 18 to 24 months before it was released on the screen. And that was because of the backlog of Technicolor film. And not only that, short subjects were low on the priority of theaters bookings. The main thing was the feature presentation, and short subjects, well, those can wait a little bit, can't they?
So that would explain to those why it, even though there was a shutdown in 53, it really just didn't look like it affected anything from the point of view of the general public.
The only thing that changed was their studio. They moved from Sunset Boulevard to Burbank. And that's really the biggest change that Warner Brothers Cartoons had after the shutdown.
Plus mixes of different animators going around with Kimsey getting the short end of the stick and that kind of thing.
I have a theory about Dr. Jekyll's Hyde that this came out in 52, and I think Dr. Jekyll's Hyde might have been started a little before or after this. And they might have needed a short in the production schedule, and they might have been hard up for material. So they just started these two again, but reuse the same animation and even some of the same dialogue from this earlier film.
The timeline's right, because you've got the shutdown, and they probably just needed something to quickly put out there while they got back into production mode. But anyway, back to the short. So, yeah, you already mentioned the wonderful mood the beginning has. I gotta say, that whole Black Panther scene in the beginning not only is very moody, and it's just so well laid out, but it also has a trademark freeze-freeing timing, especially when the Panther's walking to the steps to the music, you know. It's just incredible. It sets everything up amazingly.
It's set up to show how dangerous this Black Panther is. And when Spike encounters what he supposes is Sylvester, that really sells this situation even more. Like, not only do you have the situation set up for comedy, but you also have the situation set up for the absolute danger.
And also that sound effect of the girl screaming. I'm trying to remember where I heard that from, because that's definitely been reused. I've heard it in a previous short. I'm just trying to point my finger at it. I mean, that's where you guys in the comments come in. If you've heard that scream before, you can let me know, because I'm just racking my brains over. No, this sounds like it's another one of Treg Brown's little stock sound effect he would use for screaming girls or something.
I need a scream. Let me pick this one.
Exactly. I mean, hey, if it works, it works. Again, as you mentioned, these things were meant to be binge-watched, so I don't think the audience members will be like, hey, wait a minute, I heard that scream before. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Freeling must have loved the story for Tree for Two, because he remade it twice at DePatie Freeling for two different debut shorts. The debut short for Tijuana Toads, and the debut short for The Dogfather. Remember that? So
yeah,
the thing about the Dogfather debut short is that plot-wise, that one is much closer to Tree for Two, because that also has an escaped Black Panther in it. That entire series is nothing but remakes anyway, so...
I haven't watched the later DePatie Freeling stuff, but I'm questioning whether I should. I don't know. Dogfather's the only one I don't own, and I should probably rectify it and regret it probably a few minutes later after watching it. But anyway, that's... But I love the animation of Spike versus Chester. I just love the subdued animation of Spike, right? And versus the energetic animation of Chester, you know, being a typical small dog, always excited, just jumping around. You know, I love the difference.
Oh, that's all Ken Champion stuff. Oh, you might love this. I did a animator breakdown of this.
Wow.
So I have the animators listed of which scenes they did. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier.
No, it's like a little surprise. But before you discuss the animators, would he have animated both at sort of the same time kind of thing? Or would he have done each character sort of separately and then they put it together?
I'm not particularly sure. I believe it might have been on two levels of paper, Chester on one, Spike on one. There's no real need to have them on one level of paper because Spike is just in a held pose with some parts moving, and Chester's the only one with more energy than Spike. So I think, don't quote me on this, people, might have been on two levels of paper. It just makes more sense to me that way.
Because he needed to have, I guess, one character to play off the other kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
So maybe he did the Spike one because that would have been easier because, as you say, it's a held pose for the most of it, and then have
Yeah,
Chester
only
sort
his
of wrapped
arm
into
and
it.
head moves. So I think it is two levels of paper.
So who else animates in this one?
Animator breakdown. Cue that Crash Bandicoot crate smashing sound effect. I looked over and over and over and over at the Panther shots. Really scrutinized it, watch it over and over and over. I think it might be Virgil Ross. Just the way the timing is and the way he breaks down the drawing of the character. And especially in that scene where he sneaks into the woman's house and runs away, I paused it frame by frame and it looks to my eyes like Virgil Ross's stuff. Then you get to Spike and Chester, their introduction, and then you have the suggestion of beating up a cat. Then you have them going around the fence. Sylvester singing Charleston. Once that's done, that's all Ken Champion's animation. Right up to Sylvester's frightened take and running away. Then Spike and Chester chase Sylvester and go into the vacant lot. And Chester says, "That's a doity underhanded trick to do to you, Spike." Spike goes into the vacant lot and Chester says, "Spike's my hero." That's all Manny Perez. And then we have this long sequence where Spike goes into the vacant lot and sees the blacktail that he perceives to be Sylvester's. Right up to when Spike is thrown out a second time. That's all Art Davis's stuff. And if I could profile Art Davis's stuff here, so there's this line reading that Stan Freberg does. "You kidding, Spike?" After Spike comes away from the vacant lot, just a big, he's all white and he's completely horrified by what has happened. And when Chester says, "You're kidding, Spike," his expression and the line reading that Freberg has really communicates that, oh no, my hero, his worship is crumbling just a little bit, but he's still going to encourage his chum to get back in there and fight. And Art Davis continues that when you have an off-screen beating, as Freeling loves to do. He's thrown over the fence. Chester pulling onto Spike's shirt and slapping him across the face, and Chester volunteering to fight with the nice pugilist boxer poses. That's all Virgil Ross's stuff. Beautiful, beautiful inking in it too. Beautiful draftsmanship. When Chester grabs Sylvester by the tail and whirls him over the fence, I love the animation of Chester falling back after he whirls Sylvester over. That's all Manny Perez's stuff. Then we go back to Virgil Ross when Spike goes back to encounter Sylvester, and Sylvester's trying to scratch Spike. "Go on, scratch me. Go ahead, scratch me. I dare you to scratch me." And Spike just gets sliced up like slabs of beef to a resounding effect. It's all Virgil Ross's stuff. And Virgil also animates the great character beat of Sylvester, realizing the potential of his little tiny claws. Then we have Chester trying to have Spike go in again, but Spike's way too freaked out by it. And Sylvester comes out with the claws. Spike runs away. Then you have the reuse of Chester pummeling Sylvester and throwing him over the fence. That's all Manny Perez. And then Ken Champion animates the very last scene of the cartoon where the tables are turned. Now, Chester is the tough dog in the neighborhood and Spike is in Chester's role. And yeah, those are the animators of Tree for Two. When I'm looking at the animation of this cartoon, it's a nice lesson in character animation because you have the small little dog and the big tough dog and Sylvester. Again, I wanted to bring up Manny Perez's animation of pummeling Sylvester and whirling him over onto the lot. There's this nice feeling of weight when he's whirling him around, and then once he lets go, he falls back because he's a little guy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what these master animators were just so good at, depicting weight when needed, when they're throwing something heavier than themselves. Of course, there's going to be a bit of reaction. I mean, I'm not going to discuss all the physics on this channel, but yeah.
They reused the scratching gag in Dr. Jekyll's hide, and I find it a lot more gruesome and funnier because Alfie, his body falls apart like ground beef, and the sound is just, it's bone-chilling. Art Davis animated that one.
It's got to be ground beef when it comes to the British version, right? You know, there's like sliced salami, and it's got to be that. We can't have otherwise.
I said like slabs of beef in Tree for Two, but in Dr. Jekyll's hide, I should probably say that it's basically hamburger.
Yes, ground beef.
Oh man, like it's just loose hamburger. I also wanted to talk about the songs in this because it's mostly an original score by Carl Stalling. He only incorporates 3 popular songs in the soundtrack.
Yeah, that was what I noticed too. I was taking a look at it. I know the Bowery is sort of the theme in the beginning at the end, but
Yes.
that's what I mainly recognized. Yeah, which I guess maybe this sets up when this actually takes place. Maybe it takes place earlier on, like
Right,
a few
yeah.
decades before.
Then the outfit that Spike wears with the sweater and the derby hat is kind of similar to the Bulldog in A Hair Grows in Manhattan. And Warren Foster was from New York. Lloyd Turner said something like he never really exercised or anything, and his muscles were like steel. He probably fought his way through the streets of Brooklyn.
Wow.
The other two songs in the title is a song originated by Doris Day in the movie On Moonlight Bay called Love Ya, or Love Ya, Honey. That's used in a couple of Warner cartoons. I think Granny sings it in Sandy Claus.
Love ya, honey. Love ya, honey. Love ya, honey. Oh, if you only knew.
Carl Stalling had an affinity for Doris Day songs for some reason in the 50s. I don't know, maybe he found her attractive. In fairness, the songs are fairly catchy, so maybe that's another reason. And then, of course, Charleston, which originated in the 1923 musical Runnin' Wild. Tom and Jerry fans might know that song. It plays quite a lot.
Charleston, made in Carolina. Some dance, some prance. I'll say there's nothing finer than a Charleston. A Charleston. Lord, how you can shuffle. Every step you do leads to something new. Man, I'm telling you, it's a lot to do but dance.
You know, I remember having to dance to Charleston as part of primary school. They made us
Oh,
all
wow.
do it. They actually made us all do it. And I don't know if I've got the moves anymore. Thinking about the dance steps with the Charleston makes my hips hurt because I'm getting on, you know. But I love Sylvester's rendition of it, though, how he just puts his own lyrics to it.
He's telling you.
I wonder if that was Mel Blanc just sort of riffing, like it wasn't actually planned out, or was it like, okay, Mel, sing as Sylvester to this song, make up your own words, now go.
Hard to
kind of thing.
say.
Yeah.
It's hard to
I'll be
say.
curious.
It could have been anything. It could have been Mel, do it this way, or Mel, go on, do your stuff.
Or maybe both, because I know a few times that Mel Blanc's been told, okay, do it by the script, and now do your own version. I know with Rapid Fire, the whole "you're despicable" thing and the whole pickable and whatever line, I know that was ad-libbed. So, I don't know. Anything's possible, I guess. So, what would you say is your favorite gag in this one? Because my one just is the gruesome claw bit. Has to be, right? But
Same.
what's your favorite?
That is also my favorite gag. Just the timing of that is sublime. And it's such a gruesome gag, too.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't paint Spike's edges red. Otherwise, that would have been really bad. I don't think the production code would have allowed it, if anything.
Yeah, definitely not. No. And two other things I noticed here. I love the animation of Sylvester. Like, he's hiding in the bin, and he's looking at his tail and just shrugs. You mentioned the animated before, but I just love that bit of animation. It's just like, oh, okay, sure, why not? One other thing I loved about this is Mel Blanc's delivery, how he goes from the tough guy, Spike.
You know where is it, a cat? Nah, I'll take care of that cat myself. Come out, cat!
But then later on, as he's losing to this panther that he thinks is a regular cat, right? Just the despair in Mel Blanc's voice, that delivery.
Don't let him get me! Please don't! He's a killer! Don't let him near me!
Spike! Spike! Get a hold of yourself!
No! He's mad! He's a killer! No! No!
I'm looking at it going, wow, as great as everything else is in this short, his delivery in this is just... This is why he was one of the best, definitely.
I also love, for once, Sylvester gets a win in this one, if you really think about it. When he's not chasing Tweety, he gets pushed around by a mouse who takes his can opener in order to survive being home alone. So it feels good that Sylvester actually gets one up on a big tough bulldog like that, even if it's just by pure happenstance.
He wins and he loses in this one. So he wins against the big tough one, but then he loses to this small dog, and that's that. But I do wonder what would have happened to that panther, because it didn't need to be resolved. I will say that for this short. But you do have to wonder, what did the panther end up doing afterwards? You know,
It became a big Marvel franchise.
I like how it also bookends at the very end with Spike and Chester swapping roles. And again, the animation's great. You got the two different characters and how Chester becomes the subdued one and then Spike is the wildly animated one. It's a nice little touch there.
I don't really like using this term loosely, but Tree for Two is an excellent exercise in personality animation. I turned the sound down while we were talking about this, and they're very readable personalities in the way that the animators conveyed them. That goes for any great Warner Brothers cartoon, but like I said, with the contrast of the little scrapper dog and the big tough bulldog, it's a really nice lesson for animators to learn about those kind of contrasting personalities.
So in terms of a rating, this one is a childhood favourite of mine, and again, that was mainly because I only watched it through Fantastic Island until much later when I realised it was actually a short, right? This one gets a 9 for me. I think a 9's a good score. It's a really solid, free-feeling director's short. There's so much great about it. 9, maybe 9.5. Yeah.
I'd go for 9.5 too. It is one of Freeling's best, in my opinion.
It's always great to have you on, but thankfully people don't have to wait too much longer for you to be back on one of these, right?
Anthony's my friend because he's so strong. Yeah.
Now I am, because I'm a baggage handler, throwing bags around all day. But the next one might involve a certain puma, so I guess you've chosen the 2 shorts this year. One has a panther and one has a certain puma.
Oh my god, I did not make that connection.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what he's done here.
I like big cats. What do you want?
Well, who doesn't? Who doesn't? Mm-hmm. But in any case, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Bye-bye.
You and me is pals, ain't we, Chester? Huh, Chester? Yeah, Chester. Hey, you want us to dig up some bones for you? Huh, Chester? Huh, Chess? Huh? Huh? Chester's my hero because he's so strong. Yeah.